Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to another one of our Cal Professional Development webinars in our series this year. Today, I'm excited to welcome Melissa Anderson from Foundation Relations to talk to us a bit about how you find opportunities with foundations, how you target your materials, how you have those pitches, how you start those conversations, and then how you can use the MSU resources that we have to help you to find opportunities and maybe set up some automations to get some alerts for your future ideas. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. It's wonderful to be here with all of you today. I think that I've met a few of you here and there over the time being, but since we've met, the Foundation Relations Office has grown, expanded, and we've even updated how we do our work. So I'm going to share a slide presentation with you here today. And just as some housekeeping, if you have any questions or want to ask anything in particular, feel free to pop it into the chat or into the Q&A. I know that Stephanie and Heather will be watching that. And if it makes sense to address it during the section in which I'm talking, I will most certainly do that. Otherwise, I'll save it to the end and answer what I can in our time frame and can also answer questions offline if that is helpful. So today we're going to be navigating what foundation funding looks like here at MSU, how we engage those private philanthropic funders. So by the end of the session today, I hope that you have a general understanding of the broad scope of humanities-based private foundation funders. I've done several just general presentations about getting foundation funding, but really honed in today around those humanities and arts-based funders. I want you to leave today confident on how you yourself can identify opportunities that fit your research and project funding needs. I want you to know how you can engage with our office, the Foundation Relations Office. And I want you to feel confident that you can identify opportunities that specifically fit what you're looking for and how to approach those opportunities with funders. We have always said in our office that we are not the gatekeepers of all things foundation. I look at myself as an empowerer of the faculty and research and program staff here at MSU. I want to empower you to approach and find the funding you need. I am here to empower you through assisting in the identification of opportunities, also potentially in the review of your proposal materials. But our office as a whole sits inside of university advancement, and we work to build relationships with private philanthropic funders, charities, and associations. And we act as strategy partners for you to develop very specific approaches to engage those funders on individual projects that are related to the university as well as university-wide projects. Our hope is that you, at the end of the day, number one, receive funding. Number two, have a relationship with program officers at the foundations that you're pursuing. One of the biggest questions we get asked in our office is, do you write proposals? And I am sad to inform you the answer is no. But I'm also happy to inform you that we are more than willing to help you review and edit those proposals and those LOIs, those limited things for limited submission opportunities, as well as to provide pre-writing strategy and framing. Most of the time, proposals don't get off the ground because foundations and academic institutions don't talk the same language. We talk in academic terms, and foundations talk a language of community involvement most of the time and community-based projects. But again, it all depends. One foundation is one foundation, and they all have very different needs. Our office also exists to identify and disseminate open funding opportunities, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later on in this presentation. But as we get into this, this is our whole team right now. We have grown. I'm Melissa, obviously. I've been with the Office of Foundation Relations now for just over 3.5 years. My previous life before this, I was the CEO of a foundation for about 10 years. So I bring that lens to this work. The many people you see on this screen come from either community foundation backgrounds, non-government, nonprofit organization backgrounds. Some of them are neuroscientists. Some of them are development specialists. Everybody on the screen comes with a slightly different background, but we're a strong team who has built up in just the past few years. When I started at MSU, we were a team of three, and now you can see that we're a rather robust group. The top row of individuals you'll see from Adam, who's the director of our team, through Tam, Kaylin, Heidi, and then Kate at the bottom. We all sit centrally, which means we serve the entirety of the university, its programs and projects. Um, each of our central team people have what we call liaison colleges. I like to refer to it as BFF colleges, meaning to say you can ask the liaison to your college any question. There is no question that's too high or too low. All questions are good, and we're here to assist and help coordinate you with our office. I personally serve the College of Arts and Letters, Social Science, Education, Com Sci, and Student Success. So it's a large swath. Heidi over on the right does all of our health and science colleges. Adam works with presidential and provost initiatives. And then our friends down there on the bottom of this slide are embedded within institutes or in colleges. Bob is our newest member of the team, and he is in the College of Engineering. Amy's in Broad. Allison does anything with international work, meaning international foundations, international projects, and how they connect to MSU. And then Greg is over in the College of Ag and Natural Resources. All of these people can help you, but if you're looking for a little bit of a tailored approach and a way to interact with our office from the College of Arts and Letters, feel free to reach out to me as your liaison. I can make sure that we have the right people in the room to have the right conversations. So let's take a little bit of a step back. When we think about finding foundation funding, we should talk about philanthropy as a whole. So philanthropy is the giving of your time, talent, treasures, and testimonies for the betterment of mankind. So there are different types of philanthropic organizations and ones that we work with and ones that are a little outside our office's range of involvement. So you'll see that there are private foundations. These are endowed by either individuals, families, or corporations, and they're usually governed by a board of trustees. They are set up to make grants and support specific interests by utilizing invested assets. It's a very brief overview. The funny thing is, if you've met one foundation, you've met one foundation. Every foundation operates a little different. But this is usually the only things they have in common is that they rely usually on a set of endowed assets and they make grants around a specific theme area. The other sector of philanthropic organizations that we work with are public charities and foundations. So public foundations are foundations like your community foundations of the world. Public charities can be like the American Cancer Society or an organization that's funded by multiple public sources. And then these are usually they usually operate their own programs and make philanthropic gifts or grants. Another one we work with is associations. So these are membership-based nonprofit organizations, and all of their grant making is supported through dues or fees and other gifts of philanthropy. And usually it's to advance a shared goal in civic society. So, like I said, the American Red Cross gives out grants. It's not a foundation, but it could be listed as a public charity. Or maybe there is the Michigan Brewers Association. They give out grants, but they're not a foundation, they're an association. All of them have philanthropic intent, but they do it in different ways. Then all the way over to the right is this category that we call family foundations. And funny enough, this is the category that most people actually have familiarity with when it comes to the foundation scope. They are a private foundation, and usually the group is made up of family members that serve as the decision makers. And their size and staffing vary across their foundations. A lot of the time, faculty will come to me and say, or department heads will come to me and say, I need an endowed chair. We got to find a foundation to fund my endowed chair. Yes, that would be wonderful. 100% love that idea. That's in the foundation, family foundation space. And at MSU, family foundations are usually managed by either your director of development in your college or by our principal gifts team located centrally. All the other three organizations listed on the screen, foundation relations or corporate relations, can help you with. So if you're looking for endowed chairs, I know don't shoot the messenger. I'm just the messenger today. We can have a conversation, but probably going to bring into the room your director of development and the people who are working with family foundations to help facilitate that. So let's look at the foundation landscape as a whole. What are some of the major trends that we're seeing that are related to arts, culture, and the humanities? So many foundations, I would say, over the past few years are really refreshing their approaches and strategies. And they are addressing things that are both local and global. So when I say that, I mean to say that this project or thing you're doing affects you at a local level, but it is having it's a global conversation or it has global potential impact and reach. Um, One of the things that I've seen, so as an example, um, we want to compile this literary work around the history of this indigenous people. Fantastic. It's about it's location based in Michigan, let's say. Wonderful. Funders who fund that are going to say, okay, well, how does it lend to the national conversation about preserving culture and place-based learning and identification? So those are the kinds of things when I say that they're looking at both local and global. That's a major trend that's out there. Another thing that we've noticed too is that foundations are leaning toward giving to nonprofit organizations that are kind of rear ends and elbows on the ground. I know that's not something that most who are doing research in the university space are looking for. One way we found around that concept, or I guess around's a bad word. A way to unlock those dollars is if you have a community partner. Community partners make research practical, applicable, and give you a way to directly impact the community. So it's a way to engage some of those dollars that would have been given to local nonprofits. Another thing that I will note, if you are working internationally, many foundations nowadays are not giving to the U.S. domestic partner. They are usually giving to the organization that is there in country and on the ground. This is a trend that has been a trend in foundations. I think it should not be labeled a trend. It should just be a mainstay. Because as long as I've been involved with foundations, this has been the case. Foundations favor multidisciplinary, multi-partner collaborations. They figure, why work at it alone if you can be more impactful by engaging others in this work? A lot of foundations do not support indirect costs or they only support a small percentage. Recently, the most I have seen, most are zero, but the largest amount of indirect costs that I've seen at a foundation is 20%. So just keep that in mind when you're applying to these calls. They are also not as large if you're used to federal funding. I think that many of our foundation CEOs and leaders have emphasized well that foundations cannot fill the gap of federal funding. They were not designed to do that. They do not have the capacity to do that and be a stopgap for everything that has lost funding in the past year. And they cannot support everything going in the future. There are large holes and gaps in the philanthropy landscape that cannot be filled at this present time. Another thing that we're seeing as a major trend, some of our largest humanities and arts funders, such as Mellon and the Henry Luce Foundation, they're looking to advance social justice and equity through the arts and humanities. And they support work that centers around cultural narratives, community knowledge, inclusive storytelling. So most of the time when you're approaching funders, these are kind of some of the flavors and themes that we're seeing as a need or a necessity that they're looking for. And the biggest question that I get asked in many meetings is, well, do foundations still fund DEI work? The answer is that foundations are either backing out or doubling down. Um, Equity and inclusion were kind of birthed in conversation in the philanthropic sphere back when these conversations started um, 30 plus years ago. And they're at the heart of how foundations work um, and the practices that they uphold. I do not, if I had a crystal ball, I could say that I do not see those practices going away. They are the heart of philanthropy for the most part. So be encouraged, um, but don't be surprised if your favorite foundation is not saying much about that in some of their calls. This here is just a broad list of current foundations that are funding the arts and humanities, either specifically or inclusively along with other projects. You'll notice down at the bottom, and I'm sure many of you notice a lot of these different foundations. If you'll notice in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got an asterisk that says place-based philanthropy. Many people are like, what's that mean? Those are your local community funders, so community foundations. If you're doing work in Detroit, the Community Foundation of Southeast Michigan. If you're doing work in the Traverse City area, the Grand Traverse Community Foundation is another opportunity that's available, and it is relationship managed here in this office. So we're more than happy to connect you with place-based funders. And don't worry, I will show you, number one, how to find out who these funders are and where they are, as well as I will be sending this slide deck along to Stephanie after this presentation so you can have access to this list as well. So what is the secret sauce? How do you connect with foundations? This is probably the third most asked question I get in the process of the work that I do. I'm always going to direct you to connect with the lead development officer within your college and unit. Not because I want to give you an extra hoop to jump through, but because we believe in a full and encompassing approach here at the development team level. I am really an extension of your local development team, right? Your in-college development team. And by connecting with your lead development officer there at the College of Arts and Letters, it helps them understand the work you're doing so that it can be on their radar for individual giving and those large actionable gifts, giving days, that sort of thing. And it also allows that individual and myself to say, is this something that's potentially a candidate for corporate sponsorship? So we can bring our corporate friends in on it. So always connect with your lead development officer to let them know, hey, I'm interested in foundation funding, wanted to let you know I'm reaching out to the Foundation Relations office to pursue something. The next step that I would say is to review the Foundation Relations Resource Hub. Don't worry, I'm going to show it to you here in this presentation because it's brand new as of the 1st of September, and I want to show you how to use it so that you have this tool in your arsenal. When you review that hub, you're going to see a section for RFPs. RFP stands for Request for Proposal. Those are active opportunities. Foundations are asking for individuals to give them a proposal around a certain topic. That is the first place I would start. I would start there to see if there's something active that fits what you're doing. And we can start developing that proposal based off of that and that deadline. The next thing, if there's nothing in the active RFP space, you can utilize that foundation hub to look at a potential prospective foundation that maybe doesn't have an open call. That either we can prepare for a call that may be coming down the road on an annual basis, or conduct some personalized outreach to foundations who don't normally have open calls. It's also beneficial if you're looking to connect with a certain foundation to subscribe to their mailing list. I know that that sounds very old-fashioned and antiquated any day now, but I would subscribe to their mailing list. I would also go and stalk them on LinkedIn. You didn't hear that from me, but you did hear that from me. Uh, Going and being aware of what they're doing and where they're at helps you to connect with their current trends and their ability to make substantial grants to potential awardees. Many foundations since the beginning of 2025 have moved away from direct approaches to them or direct applications. They have instituted a letter of inquiry or an LOI process, which allows the foundation to determine alignment before a researcher spends a significant amount of time preparing a full proposal. These LOIs usually ask for like a broad overview of what you're looking to do. So if you write up a concept note, you're going to be well on your way to having the LOI ready, as well as a very high level budget, not a move it through OSP level budget. I want $100,000. It's going to be spent on X, Y, and Z approximately, and not even dividing out usually where with an X, Y, and Z it's going to be sent out. They're meant to be light touches. They're meant to be light lifts so that you don't have to go through the full formal process before you know if you're a great aligned fit with these foundations. All right. Um, I was recently at a conference and sat with four of our funding partners here and foundations. And when I asked, so what is the secret sauce that you are all seeing and that you wish you could communicate to faculty and researchers as you're being overwhelmed with applications? Um, just to give you an idea, the one funder I was talking with usually gets about 200 to 300 applications every cycle. Over this past year, they've gotten 4,000 during every cycle. That's a huge lift, and they don't have the staff to provide in-depth evaluation of full applications at that rate. They've had to readjust how they do grant making, and they've implemented this pre-application and or LOI process. So that way you're not doing a huge lift, and they also have the ability to actually spend time at pursuing applications that have a great alignment and fit. But anyway, back to my story. Um, those funders echoed each other in like with such precision and clarity. They said the most effective way that you can get our eyes on something is alignment, 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 alignment. Many times, we as people who are looking to do great things and find funding for those great things like to try and push square pegs into round holes or round holes or round pegs into square holes. And foundations like, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but we are set up to fund very specific things. The more aligned you are with what we're doing, the greater your chances of us taking a look at your proposal. So if you're not sure if something that you have aligns with that foundation, do not hesitate to reach out to me or to somebody at our office. Our job is to be as honest with you as we possibly can and either say, yeah, this has some fit with maybe a little reframing, or this isn't a great fit. Can you adjust this? Or this just genuinely isn't within their wheelhouse. So that way you don't waste valuable time that could be used finding other funding opportunities. And then last but not least for this slide, for the foundations that don't accept unsolicited proposals or they don't have RFPs out there, program officers, if there's good alignment, program officers are usually open to short conversations or an email message to start the conversation about your work. Again, alignment, alignment, alignment. But if there is that alignment and there's no open calls, our office can help pinpoint those foundations. I can teach you how to pinpoint those foundations, and either we can start that communication process on your behalf. We may already have a contact at that foundation, or we can direct you in the right space for that outreach. Another question that gets asked often is, how do you expand your footprint in foundation funding? Many people have looked to say, "Oh, I really want to be funded by a foundation. I just don't know how to get their attention." And I kind of throw back to my undergrad days and the very few classes I took at improv. And the answer is always yes, and do what you're doing and look how to expand. Many foundations are not looking to just fund the same old, same old. They want to see if you have a wheel that has, and many people have wheels. What are you doing different with that wheel? Or how are you enhancing that wheel that is a fundable thing? So, yes, and do what you're doing, but how are you making it better? How are you expanding on it? That catches the notice of foundations. And then look at your networks. See who you know. Who else is in this space doing what you're doing or doing similar things to what you're doing? Because if you're both working on wheels and you have a better way to do it, the funders that they've been funded by may be a great next step for you, as long as there's something unique to the thing that you're doing. Another way to get in front of foundations is conferences. Present, present, present. If you have something that's presentation worthy, or you have the ability to be at a conference and um, rub elbows with these foundations that are going to those conferences, again, go to LinkedIn, look at their foundation pages. A lot of the time, they'll give some indication on what conferences they're sponsoring and are going to be at. If you're there and can present or can rub elbows with them, that's a great way to get in front of them for funding, especially those foundations that don't put out requests for proposals often. Again, make sure that that wheel provides a service or does something that no one else can do, and then make it newsworthy. If it's something worth talking about, it's going to get people's attention. So make sure that what you're doing is a newsworthy thing, something worth identifying and moving forward. A couple things to think about before pursuing funding. Um, who is asking for this information? Why is it important? Many times I see research and or projects, and they're great. I wish I could find funding for all the things that come in front of our office. Um, the issue is that many times they're great ideas, but there's nothing applicable about them to say that somebody would actually want this information or this project, or it doesn't have a drive for why it's important. Good things are only as valuable as to how you explain impact with them, and impact on a local and potentially larger national conversation, like we talked about before. The next point, is it proprietary, or what is the unique outcome? Is it something that somebody's done before? If it is, you're going to have a hard time pitching it again. But if there's a unique outcome, that's what we're going to focus on and how it relates to that funder. And does it have emotional impact? I may be sectoring myself into a very specific generation when I give this example, but if you've ever watched late night television or evening television and heard Sarah McLachlan start singing "In the Arms of an Angel" and seen the puppies that appear to be crying, everybody, the moment they hear "Arms of an Angel," at least in my generation, is moved because there's an emotional impact. We automatically imagine those puppies and those kittens. Does what you do move people emotionally? Is it connected to who we are as humans? Um, a lot of the time, research and or projects feel cold because they feel disconnected from humanity. Make sure that we connect to why we are humans and give it that emotional impact or that logical pull onto why it's important. Um, I've noted down in the just a couple extra notes down there about the gap that there is in overall funding for the arts and humanities. It's not the smallest sector of funding, but it certainly is not the largest sector of funding. Health sciences are the largest funded area in philanthropy. Next are puppies and kittens. Third, children. Arts and humanities come down after that. There's a few under that, but just know that in the pecking order, 80% of philanthropic funding goes to health sciences. So you have to play in this 20% window that is very competitive and very small. So if there is a way to combine arts and education, we've opened up to maybe some education partners and funders that we wouldn't have had previously. That intersectional and cross-disciplinary approach, it helps to support work that maybe connects culture to science or history to broader social issues and community impacts. Those cross-sector projects potentially open us up and cross-sector partners open us up to other funding channels that maybe are not just humanities focused, right? It can be a yes and approach. So keep that in mind when you think about ways and strategies in which we can pursue funding. And if you're struggling to think of those, again, reach out to us at our office and we will make sure to have a strategy session with you. When writing a funder approach, like you want to reach out to this funder, this is kind of the format I want you to think about. You're writing a concept note, you're trying to put together your thoughts on paper. Ask yourself these questions. What is the central question, challenge, or cultural context you are engaging? Um, Arts and humanities kind of get lost in this space of people don't know how to explain the explicit value, right? The value of what you're doing. So try to address a question or a challenge or a cultural context on why this work is important. And then how does your work explore, interpret, or respond to this question? So put out the question, put out how you're responding to it through this work. And then third, why does this work matter? And how does it contribute to a deeper understanding or public impact? Again, bring everything full circle. Just interpreting a near lost language does not guarantee funding. You may understand the significance of it internally, but communicating why we need to preserve near lost languages because it gives hint to the deeper threat of humanity. It leads us to understanding the vastness of the world shrinking, whatever it is. I'm just spitballing ideas on how you could frame it. Understanding why your work matters and how it contributes to the deeper understanding or public impact is probably the biggest hurdle that you have to overcome in arts and humanities funding. So give that some deep thought when writing an overview to give to a foundation. So now we're going to come to the fun part. And don't worry, if you don't have your cell phones out to scan the little QR code, I will send the link to the foundation hub, this resource that I'm going to show you in the follow-up email that I'll send to Stephanie directly after this webinar. So we will make sure that you get that and are able to utilize this resource. So let me show you this new resource hub. It includes a database of active RFPs that have many more sorting functions. If you've been to our website previously before we enacted the hub, it was a little clunky. We now have some new capabilities for you. We also have a prospect library, an RFP alert sign up so you can receive tailored notifications, and then the ability to schedule a foundation relations consult. So let me share this other screen here. All right. This is and I will pop the URL link in the chat for those everyone. For those of you who'd like the link, this is the new Foundation Relations Funding Hub. Right up front, we've got you can search for funding opportunities. These are active opportunities that are available. We've got some information on how to partner with us. Again, these open funding opportunities, the Foundation Prospect Library, RFP alerts, Highly recommend. I'm going to show you this first because I feel this should be your first stop. If you sign up for an RFP alert, it's going to ask you some basic information. First name, last name, email, and then up to 5 categories of areas of interest. So if you think there's some intersectionality to your work in other areas, you can select up to 5. What this will, and then your college appointments, just so that we know who you are and where you came from. Um, these areas of interest and what this sign up will do, it means that every Tuesday at 9 a.m., any new request for proposal opportunity that our team has found related to your area of interest will come into your email box at 9 a.m. Tuesday morning. Not any old ones, only newly acquired ones. You might ask, well, how many is that? Well, it varies from sector to sector. I've never seen anyone get more than 20, and those are for our cancer researchers where there's a ton of opportunity. Some weeks there aren't many arts and humanities announcements. So that's kind of where selecting up to 5 areas could give you a good broad width of understanding. Um, and you'll probably receive probably between 5 and 10 notifications every week potentially. So let's come here and let's look at open funding opportunities. This is going to be gold for you on this page. This is every current opportunity available and personally developed through our foundation relations team. I think that it says 203 open opportunities right now. Let me draw attention here to a very fast overview of what these things mean. This top row is your title areas. There's grant maker. That means the foundation or organization that is giving out the grant. Opportunity name. Each foundation may have multiple opportunities. So this is the name of that opportunity. Each of these columns are movable. If you've ever used Excel, this is like Excel, but with everything you ever wanted Excel to do. So it should be pretty intuitive. Over here is the max amount available at this call. We put max amount. That does not mean you have to ask for it. That's just the max amount you probably can ask during this RFP. We've also put the deadline in there. If you're like me, I sometimes put the last number first and the first number last because that's sometimes how my brain reads it. So we've also put the anticipated deadline month in there just for clarification. And then there's a little abstract right here that you can read, the opportunity link, the RFP categories in which we have kind of designated this opportunity. And this little section that says PRM/contact. You might be wondering, what does PRM stand for? Primary Relationship Manager. That is the person at MSU on our team who is actively managing that relationship for MSU. Let's look at one of these calls here. Let's see. How about we do this? We'll do a search first. You can look through these specifically through RFP categories. If you select it, it'll bring you up all the opportunities that are just in that category. If you select multiple, both will be added, okay? But we're just looking at the arts, cultures, and humanities section. And say you want that deadline to be in May. I'm looking for anything in May. Look at that, brings it right down. So I know that the Joyce Foundation, and this just went up like less than an hour ago. The Joyce Foundation, the Joyce Awards, is coming up here in May. It's $100,000. If you click on any of those opportunities, it opens up this little window over here that gives you the full overview of that award. The opportunity is the Joyce Award. The deadline is May 4th. Max amount is 100,000. And this is the link that'll take you directly to that funder's page with that opportunity and an in-depth thing listed. This is an abstract. So you can look at that and say, oh, am I actually interested in this? Or can I save myself some time and stop reading? These are the RFP categories that it's listed under. Oh, look, I'm the PRM or contact for this opportunity. So if you have any questions, or want to look at how to frame your proposal, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help. Or anybody that's ever listed here, we are here to help you. Down here is the full opportunity. It talks a little bit about eligibility, the selection criteria, and the application process, along with some notes. We indicate whether it's a grad or postdoc fellowship, and if it's limited, meaning to say, is it institutionally limited where we can only send in a certain amount of proposals? In this case, no. If we had selected yes to this, there will be more details down in this process area that will automatically come up and tell you how you can apply for that pre-selection round internally. And then if there are any attachments, it'll also be there as a part of it. So you can filter things through these top sections. I'm going to reset that, but they will always be like stacking them and layering them on. It'll be yes and it'll just grab and grab and grab. There's some more opportunities to filter things over here. You can add a condition and stack those conditions. So let's say that the category um, contains, oh, sorry, has any of, I want education, and I want the category, or I want the max amount is greater than 100,000. Now it's only going to show me now opportunities that are above 100,000. So as you can see over here, you can kind of stack them. And then over here to the left, it's kind of a yes and search option. So feel free to play with it. If you get stuck, you can always ask. A couple things I want to point out to you up here on the top right-hand side. Our corporate team also has their open opportunities, a list linked here. And then you see this black box. It says Archive Foundation Opportunities. If you click that, you may be wondering, well, what is that? Automatically, as soon as an opportunities deadline has passed, it moves from our current operating page to our archive page. Why might we want to know the archived opportunities? Purely because if you are planning for a year, 2 years out, or you want to make a strategy with us, you could go and say, I'm interested in seeing all arts, culture, and humanities funders. And I am interested in being able to apply in, let's group it this way. Let's filter it this way. I want to be able to look at applying for them in um, a specific date range. You can go and start planning your next year. I don't have time to go through these individually, but that's what we would use this section for. All right. Back here, once you have looked through open RFP opportunities, like I mentioned before, we want you to look and see if there's something that already matches. Easy hanging, low hanging fruit. If there's nothing that matches, we have cultivated a foundation prospect library. These are funders that are aligned with MSU and that we either actively manage or have a connection with. All the same sorting criteria is the same for these. These are just overviews of foundations specifically. So these are all the funders that fund arts, culture, or humanities, or have a branch of them that does that. So let's look down here at the Joyce Foundation. If you click on it, just like the RFP section, it gives you who the PRM is, an overview of the foundation, their link, an approximate funding amount of what they normally fund at, their program areas, and some of the categories we've pinned them for. And do they accept applications? Yes, they do on a rolling basis, which means you can go and look at their categories and what their current priorities are to search for funding. So that list that I shared on your screen, a lot of them came from here. There are many more local funders like the Community Foundation of Greater Flint and other funders that were not listed there that you can view here in this section. If for some reason, and then there's a few proposal resources if you're submitting a proposal and need simple things like what's MSU's EIN? Do I have a list of the board of directors? So on and so forth. You can meet and look at who's on our team here. And then the other secret sauce, other than the RFP funding button, is this little contact the foundation relations team form. if you go in here and you really want us to be able to come to a meeting with you ready to talk strategy, I will tell you, we used to have a process where you could contact our office, we'd come and learn about your stuff, and then we'd have to go away and do some research, and then we'd have to come back and then fine tune that research based on what you like. We're cutting a few of those stages out. We are taking and asking if you can fill out this contact form. It asks you some things specifically about your project, like what are the areas of interest that this could potentially fall into? What's your estimated budget range? That matters a lot when approaching a funder. Match and fit, alignment, alignment, alignment. What's your timeline? What are some of the start and end dates that you're looking for? An overview of your project. Is there a specific funding opportunity you were looking at that maybe you just want some help with? Have you previously submitted to a foundation through MSU? Any other previous foundation funding? And anything else you want us to know? If you send that, we can make sure that we have the right people in the room, the people who are working with foundations that will most impact your work. So we recommend that you fill that out. That's a very fast and furious overview of our resources. Feel free to go and look at those on your own time. Come here, little thing. And I think that I'm almost done. I promise I'm almost done. Come back to the slides here. Questions. I'm on to questions. I know that was fast and furious, but I wanted to make sure to give you time if you had questions that we could answer them in this space. So feel free to pop those into the chat or into the Q&A box. Do we see any questions that I may have missed, Stephanie?
Nothing so far.
All right. Again, if for some reason you do have questions after this, feel free to reach out to me, Melissa Anderson in the Foundation Relations office. You are more than welcome to reach out at any point. If there are no specific questions, I am more than willing to give you time back to your day because I know we're recording this as well, so you can go back and review, and I will make sure to send up these follow-up materials to you at the end of this. But my one homework, if I could send it out to all of you, is if you would sign up for those RFP alerts, you would be amazed how many people have found funding they were just not aware of based on those alerts. So I recommend going and signing up for those as soon as you possibly can. That will help you in your journey. Thank you so much for having me today.